Let's move on to our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Spril, who writes, "Oh no." Always gotta love it when an email starts with, "Oh no." Looks like Paramount and Hasbro have a new G.I Joe movie in the works, which seems to be a spinoff for Snake Eyes, which has not come out yet. Do you think that they are rushing into this as the last two movies didn't perform well financially? What are your thoughts? Thanks, and may the safety be with you. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Sam. And yes, there is indeed a new live-action G.I. Joe coming. Now, it needs to be pointed out, even though it's obvious to some. This is a reboot. This is not going to be a continuation of the Channing Tatum or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson incarnation of G.I. Joe that they did to mixed success, I suppose you could say. So that's not coming out. I also don't think it's fair to call this a spin-off of Snake Eyes, just like Avengers wasn't a spin-off of Captain America, the First Avenger. I think Snake Eyes is going to be kind of they're going to use the Snake Eyes movie, which they are finished shooting, by the way. They're going to use the Snake Eyes movie as the launching point that will then lead into G.I. Joe. At least that's what it sounds like. This is what comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Lorenzo de Bonaventura, who produced Snake Eyes and is also producing various projects based on Hasbro's Transformers brand, will produce with Hasbro's arm Allspark Pictures. While details of the take are being kept on Cobra Island, the idea for the project is to build on Snake Eyes, making it not quite a sequel, but rather an expansion to take filmgoers deeper into the world of G.I. Joe. So my guess here, and I don't know this for sure, I'm simply speculating here. My guess is that Snake Eyes probably ends with, some government guy coming up to him. "I want to talk to you about G.I. Joe." Ba, ba, ba. And then, and says, "Knowing is half the battle." And then off he goes, and then we'll get into that. So I'm thinking that's going to be this. Now, listen, I've already said before, I'm actually kind of excited about the Snake Eyes movie. I think they got a really good group of people together. I think they said they were focusing on the action of it. I like Henry Golding. I think he already is a big star, but I think his star is going to continue to rise. I think he's going to be great in the role. Obviously, you need to bring him into this new G.I. Joe movie as well. He needs to be Snake Eyes in that. So we'll see where all that comes together. But yeah, listen, I'll tell you what, it's time. They needed to reboot G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is a beloved franchise. And obviously they got off to a rough start with the previous two movies that came out ages ago. And that's fine. It's time to try another one. Now, I don't know if they're going to be big and successful at this. I don't know. Maybe Snake Eyes will be terrible, and all of a sudden, what we think is a good idea with doing a G.I. Joe movie will suddenly look like a terrible idea in doing a G.I. Joe movie. But clearly, this tells me a couple things. One, it tells me that Hasbro and Paramount are happy with the way Snake Eyes came together. Because obviously, if they weren't happy, and that doesn't mean we're going to like it, but if they weren't happy with the way Snake Eyes came together, they wouldn't be putting money into pre-production and making announcements about now making a G.I. Joe movie. I mean, that's just not what you do. You go back to the drawing board. So clearly this tells me that at least they're happy with what they're seeing out of the Snake Eyes movie. And that's a good thing. Doesn't mean you and I will like it, but it's at least a good thing that they seem to be happy with it. And again, as I said before, this is just a property that needs to be rebooted. There should be a G.I. Joe film series going on. It is just too beloved, especially in today's world. G.I. Joe is the type of property, Rob, that I think would transmute very well in today's context. I think we need a G.I. Joe. I really do. So even though a lot of people I think are going to roll their eyes at the sounds of this, and I understand why, to me, I think this makes sense and is probably a pretty good move. And now is probably the time. Anyway, Rob, you've seen this, you've heard the story, you've read the news. What do you make about this?
Well, I think it's all good. I think that I can't. What is a spinoff? Look, Hasbro obviously wants to. They want to continue on developing many of their properties. I mean, at one point they were talking about doing Mask movies about that toy line.
Mask.
I mean, like, come on, dude. Like, really? Okay, I get it. Fine. But the G.I. Joe, it's such a natural. And I grew up loving G.I. Joes. I had 12-inch G.I. Joes because I'm that old. And I think that the G.I. Joe franchise, of all the toy franchises, lends itself the best to making a kick-ass movie. I don't think any of them have actually worked the way they should have. they haven't grounded them enough. They're just too goofy. And I think maybe this Snake Eyes movie, they need to make something that's kick-ass. And I'm hoping this new Snake Eyes movie is just that. And I think that by announcing this particular film, call it a spinoff, don't call it a spinoff, I think it shows confidence in what they've seen coming down the pike from this Snake Eyes film. I think they're like, you know what? This is what we've needed to do all along. We have to get these things. I mean, these franchises work best when they're coming out every year. You know, why wait 2 or 3 years between movies? If you've got something that works, Paramount needs this. They need something. They need a reliable franchise that they can bring out, and they know that every year they can hit big because they haven't, Mission Impossible. What else do they have that's theirs? And the G.I Joe franchise is there. They've got to dip into the Hasbro toy box, literally, and make it work for them. And I want to see Paramount succeed. I want them to have a hit from this series. I really, really do.
All right. The question here is, guys, what do you think about this whole G.I. Joe thing? Do you think this is a good move? Do you think, maybe I've got no interest in it? Do you think, like I do, that, hey, you know what? This one actually makes sense. There should be a G.I. Joe franchise out there. But how do you feel about it? Jump in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. And that actually brings us to the topic of today's question of the day. And our question of the day that I put out to you guys, I just put it out on my Twitter, which you can just simply see at John Campea. And I asked you guys just before the show started today, I put out the following question. Paramount/Hasbro have announced new live action Transformers and G.I. Joe reboot movies. Which one are you more interested in? Like I said, I put this out just before the show started. Over 1,700 of you guys have voted. Right now, 57.2% of you are saying you're actually more interested in a Transformers new movie. 42.8%, this is pretty closer than I thought it would be. 42.8% of you are saying you are more excited about the idea of a G.I. Joe movie. I'm going to leave that up on my Twitter. You can go and cast your vote there. But in the meantime, guys, just jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.